Welcome, Dr. Cates. Welcome to the Wellness Cafe, and thank you again for your time to join me today.
Thank you. It's so great to be here.
I listened to many of your past interviews about your book, and I just want to kind of go back and find out more about your origin story and how you became the spa doctor.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I became known as the spa doctor when I was working in certain spas, and I was the doctor there. So the spa doctor is what I got to be known as, and that was about 6, 7 years ago, and I've been in practice for about 17 years. But what was happening when I was at the spas was I was doing a 2 week weight loss program. And one of the things that people mentioned to me when they finished the program was that in addition to losing weight, their skin issues cleared up. So they felt like their skin was smoother, clearer, more youthful looking even. And to me, that made total sense because I've always known that skin is a reflection of our inner health, and what we're doing with our diet and lifestyle impacts our skin. But I realized that for a lot of people, that was kind of a different concept because the overall approach to skin issues is to cover up and to suppress skin issues, using topical steroids or covering up with makeup. But there's so much more to skin. And I learned this at an early age when I was a kid. I struggled with health and skin issues. I had eczema, hives. I also had these little bumps on my face. I don't even know they didn't really know what exactly it was. But I saw a lot of different doctors who put me on medications where I would have side effects. I developed allergies to the medications, and I just kept feeling worse. Not to mention how it was affecting my self-esteem as a kid and being embarrassed by my skin. Luckily, my parents kept looking for solutions, and they found a holistic practitioner to take me to. And that's the one thing that turned my health around. And that's when I realized that when my health cleared up, when my health issues, my allergies got better, my skin issues got better. And I started realizing that at an early age. So fast forward back to working in the spas, I realized I had this own personal experience, and I've been living it for so many years, but so many people were still struggling with skin problems or not realizing how clean and clear and smooth and glowing their skin could be. And so that's why I really wanted to focus on it. Also, I I see this opportunity for people to look at their skin as information that's giving you feedback. I call it our magic mirror, because it gives us information about our health. So a lot of people are missing an opportunity to learn about their health by what their skin is telling them.
Do you feel like, because I know people are always talking about finding their passion, do you feel like you get into skin because somebody turned your skin around and your own health revolution, or did you work in the spa and you become more and more and more in love with the process?
I think it was a little bit of both. I think, it's interesting to me. I didn't think I was going to focus on skin when I graduated from naturopathic medical school and started practicing. I really didn't think that. I never thought I would create my own skincare line. I didn't know that I was going to go that direction. So I think it was really a combination. I think when I was in the spas and people were talking about their skin, it reminded me of my own journey, and that I could help people even more because of understanding where they'd been and where they were coming from. So I think, and I also, I think the passion behind it comes from my personal journey. Also seeing how I can help other people, and how much skin issues impact people's self-esteem and how they show up in the world. And when that clears up, how much people are, how much they can appreciate their lives, their beauty that maybe they don't even see anymore because it's veiled by their skin issues. And how they can do that naturally without all the chemicals and all the medications with side effects. And I'm not saying that people should, I'm not saying that people should never see a dermatologist or never use a prescription medication. I mean, that's definitely, there's a time and place for those things, but there's so much that we can do to support our bodies without having to go down that path.
Definitely. And I totally resonate with that. For example, my own personal life, let's say in my teenage years, you start to develop acne and start to deal with self-esteem issue and insecurities. What did I do? I seek out solution online, and I end up buying Proactive, which I'm sure it's a product you're familiar with. But then what that did to my skin was it really, really dried it out, and it felt horrible, even though I didn't think it helped me that much. So I basically stopped using it, and that went on for many years until I changed my diet, which we'll be talking more about, cutting out things like gluten and dairy that really, really changed my skin health. You talk about 5 skin types in your book. Can you kind of go over what they are and what they mean?
Yeah. So I wanted to redefine skin types because I know a lot of times people talk about skin in terms of dry or oily or mature or sensitive, those kinds of skin types. But when people talk about skin in that way, it doesn't really help us figure out what the root causes are behind them. So what I decided is to come up with new categories of skin types and give them different names. And so I decided to use actually some names inspired by some of my patients. So they all have human names. They're Amber, Olivia, Sage, Heath, and Emmett. And I've categorized them based upon the root causes behind them. So, and that helps me, help more people figure out their root causes and how they can address them, because I know I can't sit down with every single person and help them figure out their root causes. So I wanted to figure out a way, kind of a system to do that. And I created an online skin quiz that people can actually go and just take a short quiz and learn which of these skin types is theirs, and then it gives recommendations based upon that. And people can, it's a free online quiz. They can just go to theskinquiz.com, and so with these skin types, if you, instead of just covering up and suppressing, you're looking for the root causes behind them. When you find out your skin type, it just gets to be a lot easier. And in my book, the way that I use it in my book is that the 2-week program, it's a way to customize the 2-week program based upon their unique needs. So that's why I created the skin types and the quiz.
Perfect. And that really helped me when I read the book, because what I do with my patients, I recommend them to go out into the sun to get, of course, the vitamin D, the essential vitamins that's needed. But I wasn't aware of these different types. So I kind of want to ask you, how much sun is too much? Of course, it's probably going to be based on your skin types. And how do we balance getting sufficient vitamin D and also not damaging our skin?
Yeah, it's a great question, because we definitely do want to do things to protect our skin from sun damage. We definitely know that when we get too much sun exposure, it causes our skin to burn, it causes us to age more rapidly and make us more prone to skin cancer. So we definitely want to protect our skin, but at the same time, we don't want to be afraid of the sun. And there's a lot of benefits that come from being in the sun. We get vitamin D from the sun. When the sun hits our skin converts vitamin D in our skin, which we need for healthy skin and our immune system, a lot of different things. And also just being outdoors and being in sunshine helps us manage stress and reduce endorphins and those kinds of things. So we definitely don't want to avoid the sun at the same time. So here are some things to think about when we look at our sun exposure and vitamin D. We don't actually need a ton of sun exposure to get that vitamin D, but we do need some. And when we put sunblock on, we put sunscreen on, or we cover our skin up, with clothing, we block that ability for our sun to make vitamin D. So here's what I suggest. I suggest to people to go ahead and cover your face and the tops of your hands, because with sunblock, because those are the areas where we get the most sun exposure and we get the most, aging, signs of aging. And then when you go out into the sun, all you need is 5 to 10 minutes a few times a week, maybe on your arms and legs, and avoid the peak hours of the sun. So go in the earlier in the morning or later in the day. And so that's really not very much time to get the sun damage, but you can still get the benefits of the vitamin D. And then the rest of the time, just be smart about it. Try not to spend too much time in the middle of the day, unexposed skin, wearing hats, covering up, doing things in the shade when you can. Those are all great. And using a good sunblock is key.
Well,
so
let's talk about that.
Yeah, because a lot of people are covering up with these chemical sunscreens that actually have harmful ingredients. And here they are, they're trying to do a good thing by protecting their skin, but there are many chemicals in these sunscreens that can be harmful. For example, there is an ingredient called oxybenzone that you'll see in the majority of sunscreens that you buy. And even some of the so-called natural sunscreens out there will have some of these chemical sunscreens. And the problem with oxybenzone is it's a known hormone disrupting chemical. And hormone disrupting chemicals are one of the issues with a lot of skincare products. A lot of them will contain these kinds of chemicals. And so instead of, so the problem with hormone disrupting chemicals is that there are a class of chemicals known as endocrine disrupting chemicals. And we're exposed to them in our air, water, food, and personal care products. So we get a lot of exposure to these. And the endocrine disrupting chemicals exposure to them have been linked to a number of different health issues, including breast cancer, prostate cancer, infertility, thyroid disease, obesity, even because of its impact on insulin and other hormones that impact our weight. So it can, the more we can do to reduce our exposure to these endocrine disrupting chemicals, the better. So that means looking at your air, water, food, and personal care products and how to reduce those. And of course, I talk about all this in my book, and I give very practical tips and things to do that. So instead of using a chemical sunscreen, try using a mineral-based sunblock. So a zinc oxide-based sunblock is a much better choice. And so you're going to get the protection without the concerns of the chemical sunscreen.
Listeners, you heard it here from Dr. Cates. Wow, that really cleared up a lot of my questions for myself and my patients. So thank you for that.
Yes.
So the next question, of course, the data that I gathered, the biggest concern and the biggest questions is acne, right? A lot of people are dealing with acne and have been unsuccessful with conventional treatments. What would you tell them, and where should they be looking for the root cause?
Well, with acne, there are a number of things that can trigger that. Hormone imbalances are one of them. So being careful with the exposure to hormone disrupting chemicals like that we talked about, reducing your exposure to those is going to be important. And then also looking at what might be going on with your hormones if you have other signs of hormone imbalances, and addressing those. Nutritional deficiencies can be another trigger for acne. For example, if you're not getting enough zinc, that can be one that is important for skin overall, and also for acne. Also, inflammation. So if you're eating pro-inflammatory foods that are triggering the acne, that can make it worse. One of the biggest foods that creates issues for acne is sugar, or foods that turn to sugar. So foods that are high in the glycemic index. So what happens with that is when you eat a lot of these foods, your blood sugar will increase. And with that, insulin increases. And when insulin increases, that can increase excess sebum production, the oils in the skin, and androgen activity. And so the excess sebum production and androgen activity are two of the big things that trigger acne breakouts. So what we want to do is, especially if you are maybe have a family history of diabetes, or you know you have blood sugar imbalances, this is going to be particularly important. But even if you don't have those, just eating a lot of sugar or foods that turn to sugar can be an issue. So doing things to balance your blood sugar, being aware that sugar, of course, is a big trigger, but also foods that are, if you're eating a lot of grains, if you're eating like pasta and breads and crackers and a lot of those types of foods, potatoes are a big one. If you're eating a lot of those can actually also increase your blood sugar. So eating more balanced meals, getting more protein, fats, vegetables, and more of a balanced meal, getting your blood sugar tested to see if it is an issue, then, and that could also be good.
Wow, that's awesome. Like you said in the beginning, acne is not an external problem, right? It's a reflection of what's going on internally. And you mentioned hormonal imbalance as well. I want to ask you, what about like people that are on birth control or IUD?
Yeah, definitely. There are definitely things that can create imbalances in our hormones that can cause that excess. A lot of times, what happens with birth control pills is it will actually lower androgen. So it can look like it's clearing up skin issues. For most types of birth control pills, it will actually clear up acne. There definitely is a downside to that, because when you're suppressing testosterone this way, you're going to impact your hormones in other ways. You're going to have decreased sex drive. You're also going to be missing out. So in the middle of a woman's cycle, you usually have a peak in testosterone. And that peak in testosterone is actually good for women because it gives us drive, it gives us sex drive. It also helps us with building muscle mass and also the collagen in our skin. And so if we're missing that testosterone peak, we're missing out on actually an important part of our hormone balance. Also, it can also, because it's kind of tricking your body into creating a different pattern for hormones, it can create other imbalances with hormones. Now, when it comes to I think you mentioned IUD, there's some of the IUDs have progestin, which is a synthetic progesterone in there. Some IUDs don't have any hormones, and those are fine. It's not going to trigger acne. And you know what? Honestly, with the progestin IUD, it's not so much the acne that I see as a problem as other imbalances in hormones, irregularities in cycle, and other issues that can come from that. I think that if they could make the IUD with a natural progesterone, it would be a lot better. But unfortunately, it's a synthetic progestin, which comes with some health concerns and risk. Also, other types of hormonal birth control can create other imbalances. Definitely something to be aware of. And the thing with birth control pills is women might go on them for a while, but then when they go off, then they'll have a worsening in their acne. So I suggest trying to balance your hormones, get to these other root causes instead of having to go on a birth control pill, because I know that is one of the reasons why sometimes women will go on them. And then I just want to mention too, one of the other big root causes that can sometimes be playing a role, and these things can sometimes make it worse, is the gut and the gut microbiome. Because we have this delicate balance of microorganisms that live in our gut, and that impacts our skin health. Our skin actually has its own skin microbiome, its skin microbiota, and it has its own balance of microorganisms that live on and protect the skin. And so if there is issues with the gut, and then that can impact the skin microbiome and also what we put externally on our skin.
Wow. So that means that the anti-bacterial soap that is prevalent is not the best thing for your skin, right?
It really isn't. And I know we've become so germophobic, and with all of our antimicrobial soaps and cleansing agents and all these things, it does have its downside. And we're seeing that with issues, more and more people with gut microbiome issues from taking antibiotics and being exposed to a lot of these antimicrobial agents. And certainly the skin, and there's not as much attention about the skin microbiome as there is to the gut microbiome these days, but I think we're going to see more and more about it as time goes on, more research comes out. But yes, these antimicrobials, so these antibacterial soaps that we're using, they come with the downside. They will kill off, just like taking antibiotics internally, you're going to kill off harmful bacteria, but you also kill off some of that beneficial bacteria that keep your skin healthy and in balance. And of course, with these antibacterial soaps and things, there are also oftentimes a lot of other chemicals in there that can have harmful effects. Like triclosan, for example, is an ingredient that's being pulled from antimicrobial soaps, because now we realize, well, we've been talking about this for a while, but finally it's come around where, okay, this isn't a good thing for our health. We need to take these out. This is harmful for our children. It's harmful for us. It is interesting to see how many of these antimicrobial products that we use, and hopefully people will realize that there are natural alternatives, and using things with essential oils or, those can be antimicrobial, but without disrupting the skin microbiome.
That's great. And like what we tell our listeners is, don't put your health in the hands of the regulators. If you wait for the government to tell you what's safe and what's not, then you're in trouble, right? You got to be proactive about it.
Right. And, I just want to point out, just to kind of further your point along, because I agree, is that in some countries, like in Europe, they've banned over 1,000 ingredients in personal care products. But in the United States, the FDA has only banned 11 ingredients in our personal care products. So this is to your point. We've got to be proactive. We've got to look ahead to what makes sense instead of just waiting until the regulations occur or until that magical study comes out. Think about how these things work. If we think about how these hormone disrupting chemicals work in our bodies and all the different ways we're exposed to them, the more we can do to reduce our exposures, the better. And so avoiding ingredients in personal care products that are going to create these issues. And just like you're reading your food labels and you're reading your supplement labels, and it's important to start looking at your personal care product labels. And I would even go so far as to say that if you wouldn't put it in your mouth, you probably shouldn't be putting it on your skin.
Yeah, because it absorbs directly in the bloodstream.
Yeah, women use hormone creams and patches all the time, but then they also will apply products to their skin that they don't think is going to get through their skin. And it's interesting because these do get into our bodies. For example, parabens are a common ingredient in personal care products. You'll see in the ingredient label, you'll see like methylparaben or propylparaben and parabens at the end of the word. And what we found in it, there are several studies that have shown that they found parabens in breast tumor tissue. So we know that parabens that we're exposed to in our personal care products are getting absorbed through the skin, they're getting taken up into the body, and they don't just get flushed out. They can get taken up into tissue like breast tumors.
Right. And I think when you're talking about one product, it may not seem so significant, but the law of compounding really plays a role here. You add one here, you got personal product, you got soap, you got your shampoo, you got your cleaners, and you got all these different things that are coming in the food as well. So everything adds up.
Yes, it does. And we're exposed to more toxins now than we ever have been because there are more chemicals being produced and created. And then the old chemicals they're continuing to exist. They don't necessarily go away. Like lead, for example, it's going to stay in our soil. We don't make leaded gasoline anymore. We don't have leaded paint, but it's still in our environment. It stays in the soil. It gets into our produce. It gets into our water, unfortunately. And then even if we've banned a chemical, it might still be produced in another country. Like if it's made in China and it's still there, and then it can travel over in clouds from China, rain down into our soil and get into our environment. So whatever and I don't want to be all doom and gloom here, but whatever we can do to reduce our total load is essential, more so than ever before. And if you've got children, definitely be careful with them because they're smaller. They've got developing organs and bodies so they're even more susceptible to these chemicals. And we need to do everything we can, protect them, protect ourselves.
Perfect. And you mentioned the microbiome of the skin. Before we go too far off of that, what can we do to nourish that? Do you do mask, or do you kind of enzymes?
It's a great question, and it is different than the gut microbiome. It has different microorganisms. It's a whole different being, the microbiome, and different areas of the body have different microorganisms that live on there. One of the things that we know helps the skin microbiome significantly is enhancing and protecting the pH of the skin. And our skin does best in a mildly acidic environment, so in a pH of 4 to 4.5. And a lot of skincare products that people use actually have a high pH. So like a bar of soap that lathers up, that's an indication that it has a high pH. And so that's actually going to put your skin into a higher pH, disrupt the skin microbiome as a result. And even water has a neutral pH of 7. And if somebody's using alkalizing water, maybe they got a great fancy water system and they're even using that could be even higher. And that even just rinsing your face can throw that off. So using skincare products with that mild acidity is going to be key. And that's one of the things that I found when I decided to make my own skincare line that was the one thing that I found that was missing from a lot of skincare products, including the natural skincare products because I was hearing from estheticians and dermatologists that natural skincare products don't work. And I thought, well, that's crazy. There must be some sort of science behind this to help ensure that they are effective. And the pH is one of the key things that I found really helps restore people's skin microbiome so that it can help clear up skin issues and help the skin age gracefully, not have that premature aging. And so I developed the skincare system. It's a 4-step system, and I find that it works well for all skin types because of the pH and the natural actives in it.
Where can people find your skin line products?
They can find out my website, thespadoctor.com, and doctor is abbreviated DR, so THESPADR.com. My book is also there. You can find my skin quiz there, my podcast information. Yeah.
Perfect. I want to raise my hand here because I'm that guy that basically rinses his face with just soap and water. So what about males listeners out there? What would be, because we're not so particular with the skin compared to women, what would be your recommendations?
Yeah, I know. And I think it is, typically it's been women that have mostly cared about their skin, but I'm seeing more and more men asking me and using our products because it is something that that does help us. And I think 80% of a healthy skin comes from internally what we're doing and creating, addressing those root causes. But certainly 20%, and for some people maybe more, is what we put on our skin. And for men, it is key to keep it simple. I know men don't like it complicated. Women oftentimes, we love to use all our different products. My skincare system, I created it to be super simple for men and women. And men like it too because it's like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, you're done. Okay, morning and night. And it's super simple. It's you're not going to have to use one product here, one around your eyes, one here. You just 4 steps. It's easy, and the men are loving. I mean, I love hearing back from the men too, saying how much it's helping with their skin.
Well, I'm gonna have to try that out then.
Yes.
What's your thoughts on application of coconut oil on the skin?
That's a great question too. I think coconut oil is a fantastic oil. We use it for cooking. It's great internally. And externally, it can be okay on the skin, but for acne-prone skin, if you put it on your face straight without being mixed with other things, it can actually clog your pores because it's heavier. Other oils will be better, like a jojoba oil is going to be lighter. For people with more acne-prone skin, that's going to be a better choice. What I find with coconut oil is it's actually not as hydrating as as I think a lot of people think. I think there are other oils that can be better, but I do use coconut oil in my cleanser as one of the ingredients because it helps remove a lot of the debris and for women makeup and when it's used in balance with other ingredients, it doesn't have the acne, promoting kind of effects.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there because my girlfriend uses that, and she does have some acne, and noticeably right after the coconut oil application. Yep. So, how about tattoos? Because millennials out there, are getting more and more tattoos. How is that affecting the health of the human body? What's your thought?
That's actually a first. Nobody's ever asked me that in an interview before. I don't know as far as obviously you're tattooing the skin, so you're damaging the skin there. Some people will, of course, if you do get tattoos, you've got to go somewhere that is very hygienic, very careful about the needles that they use, and because infections do occur quite a bit with tattoos if they're not done properly, and take care of your tattoos, of course, and all the things that we're doing for the rest of our skin to keep it healthy with the pH of the products and natural actives and those sorts of things are going to help with healing the skin. Now, does it impact our health? Is it going to impact our health negatively? I don't know. I mean, I remember hearing a story I did not see in medical school. I did not see this cadaver, but I heard about one of the cadavers when they were doing the dissection on an anatomy lab. There was one that had a lot of tattoos, and the cadaver's liver was the color of the tattoos. Like it had gotten discolored because of all the tattoos the person had had. I don't know if there are other autopsies are done and show this kind of thing, but it did make me wonder, like, what does this do to us? Especially, if somebody gets a teeny little tattoo, that's probably not going to have that kind of effect. But the people that get the tattoos all over, I wonder where that dye, you got to absorb some of that systemically, and where does that go?
Yeah, like the sleeves, which are more and more popular these days.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I heard was it basically blocks the sweat glands, which the function of it would be to excrete the toxin from your body, and you might be accumulating toxins in your body if you're covered up with too much tattoo. So
that's interesting. That is a really good point. I hadn't even thought about that, but that would be something to look into and consider.
You talk in your book about clean mind as well, and how stress can be one of the most important triggers that most people overlook as far as impacting their skin health. What's your method of cleaning the mind?
Yeah, it definitely, stress is a toxin. And when people especially with skin issues, get in this vicious cycle of getting stressed out by their skin problems. I remember that. I remember those days. And then the stress actually worsens skin issues. So one of the things that happens, for example, is increase in cortisol, our adrenal hormone cortisol. And that increase in cortisol can increase inflammation. So it can actually worsen all those inflammatory skin issues. So doing things to help you reduce your stress, to manage your stress, is key. And we all have stress. It's not like it's going to go away. And some stress isn't so bad, but the problem is that if you never do anything to take care of yourself, you could create some imbalances with your hormones. You could be missing out on improving your health. So and really it's something every day. You can't just wait until the weekend and do something. It needs to be something that you do every day. And maybe it's when you wake up or right before you go to bed at night. That can be a good time to remember. It's a lot of time, that's the time that we do our self-care in a lot of different ways. And we use our, personal care products. And it can also be a good time to take care of ourselves and by clearing our mind. So just taking a minute or 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever time you have to take some deep breaths and do some deep belly breaths and clear your mind, just clear your thoughts. spend some time to do that. And if that's the only thing that you have time to do, then that, at least it's something. But there's a lot of other things that you can do too without having to spend an hour and a half at a yoga class or an hour in a meditation. You can do a lot of things, like even just getting out in nature and going for a walk, or spending time with people that you love to spend time with. Laughing is a great way to relieve stress, and also human touch, being with other people helps us reduce stress. It releases the hormone oxytocin, which helps us feel connection and sort of a purpose and connection with other people. And we get that by touch, by holding hands, by a hug. Even if you have a pet, just petting the pet, that can release oxytocin.
That's why you need to get a dog, right? If you're a dog person. There you go. What are some of the most most common mistakes that people do that are so damaging to their skin?
Well, we've talked about some of them. Right. One of them is, not realizing that what you put on your skin, it can get absorbed. So that's one of the mistakes people make, is just mindlessly putting on products, thinking, okay, I'm just going to cover this up. I'm just going to put this on, and this is going to do magic for me, without looking at what's in it and that they could be absorbing it. The other we had talked about, another one, big one we talked about, is the pH of products. A lot of people don't know about that, and that also ties into the issues of the skin microbiome. A lot of people don't know about that, and that they could be causing more damage by putting on the topical steroids and topical antibiotics, and that actually is going to create more damage and imbalances, which might temporarily make your skin look better. But then your skin, once you stop using those products, which you'll have to at some point, you don't want to use topical steroids or antibiotics forever. They're only meant to be used for short term to kind of curb an infection or curb inflammation. But if you continue to use them, that's going to create issues. And then once you stop, though, a lot of times you have these rebound effects. So then the body doesn't quite know what to do with that. So it's got this imbalance in the skin microbiome, and then you have to deal with that. And a lot of people don't even know how to deal with that. So they'll just keep going back and getting more medications.
Right. And definitely check out Dr. Kate's book, Clean Skin from Within. And I noticed that you included tons of awesome recipes in your book as well to go with the 2-week plan. I want to ask you, what's your favorite recipe from there?
My favorite recipe? Oh my gosh. I've got so many. I mean, I think that I love wild salmon is one of my favorite foods for skin. I also love salmon. So I have a wild salmon, baby beluga, lentil recipe. Love that one. I also, I grew up in the South, and I love a good peach cobbler. And I wasn't about to give that up just because I'm giving up sugar. I'm not going to give that up. So I found a way to make it, and it's still delicious without the sugar and without the grains, without the bad stuff. So without the dairy and everything, and it's delicious. And I even top it with a coconut whipped cream, which is amazing. So probably my favorite.
That sounds delicious already. So, yeah. Well, Dr. Kate, thank you so much for coming on today. I want to acknowledge you for doing what you do and spreading the message, and also your podcast. If listeners go check out Dr. Kate's podcast at thespadoctor.com and also on iTunes as well. Before we wrap up today, I want to ask you one last question. What does wellness mean to you?
Wellness to me is it's a whole body approach. It's your body, mind, soul connection. It's not just about how good your skin looks, right? It's how you feel. It's how you look. I mean, you want to be happy with what you see in the mirror, but so much of what we see in the mirror goes so much deeper than what other people might see. It's how we show up in the world. And so finding a balance of physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, finding that balance, that's what wellness is to me.